Presenting Modern Indian History by Vision IAS. New Age content for New Age aspirants in 3 handy volumes. Discover engaging content featuring personal stories, iconic speeches, rare images, and even satirical cartoons for a unique learning experience. Balancing facts and analysis, these books draw from traditional sources while also incorporating in-depth research from modern historical works. These books offer a clear, cohesive narrative that connects all units and chapters in simple English. Timelines, flowcharts, and maps simplify complex events, boosting visualization and retention. Grab these volumes and master modern Indian history through self-study.
The UPSC CSE arena is an ever-evolving space where staying up to date becomes as crucial as maintaining a thorough preparation. With strategic planning and holistic coverage for exam syllabus, Vision IAS Delhi presents GS Foundation course. Avail analysis and integration of current affairs with GS syllabus. All India test series with an innovative assessment system, inculcating post-test analysis, discussion, all India ranking, and more. Explore the holistic learning modules intrinsically designed for the ideal aspirant.
What you call as the second topic, that is socio-religious reforms. Again, so how did the religious reform movements of the 19th century, such as Brahmo Samaj and Arya Samaj, redefine the relationship between tradition and modernity in Indian society, and what impact did this have on religious practices, right? Okay, in what ways? So यहाँ पे क्या focus करो, देखो focus is very, very complex. UPSC focuses on what you call as organizations. That is, what was the work of organization? How did they operate? What goals did they have? What methods did they have? How successful they were. Redefined the relationship between tradition and modernity. So first, do we know what is the meaning of the word modern, or what is modernity? Modern is something which is new in time and it is better. And because we are dealing with the topic of socio-religious reforms, that means society. So modern society. So modern society which is relatively better, right? So linkage between tradition. Tradition is old in time, right? What is feudal? Feudal is something which is old in time, however, negative. But always remember, old can be gold also. Lata Mangeshkar, Kishore Kumar. Old can be gold also. So this check is there. So not everything which is old is feudal. That means there is a space for linkage. There is a space for linkage between modernity and tradition. So wherever old is gold, there can be a compatibility with modernity. So you can go for social reforms, but that does not mean end of tradition. Wherever tradition is gold, there can be compatibility. So that's like the thought process with respect to this particular question, right? Example, are Vedas negative? Answer is no. Is Mahatma Gandhi negative when he says, let's go back to ancient village-based economies? औकात तुम्हारी, तुम लिख दो एग्जाम में, महात्मा गांधी वॉज फ्यूडल, लिख पाओगे? थे भी नहीं, लिख भी नहीं पाओगे. लिखना भी नहीं चाहिए और लिख भी नहीं पाओगे. ठीक है? Why? Because old can be gold. So therefore, he is basically criticizing the negative impacts of industrial revolution on the society, on the economy. Global warming तो तुम्हारे सामने ही है, ठीक है ना? So खैर ये सब चीजें हैं. तो that is like one thought process which should be there in the mind while understanding this question. So how did the religious reform movements of the 19th century, that is 1800s, such as Brahmo Samaj and Arya Samaj? So question is asking us, tell us, answer karo. Answer can be given even without these organizations in the form of concepts. Answer can be given with the help of other organizations as examples, but try to give answer whereby your sentences include the concepts and application of those concepts by Brahmo Samaj and Arya Samaj. तो इनके बारे में भी थोड़ा बता दो साथ साथ में. दैट्स द थॉट प्रोसेस. रीडिफाइन द रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन ट्रेडिशन एंड मॉडर्निटी इन इंडियन सोसाइटी, एंड सो दैट्स वन एस्पेक्ट. एंड व्हाट इम्पैक्ट डिड दिस हैव ऑन रिलीजियस प्रैक्टिसेस, राइट? तो ऐसा, दैट्स वन. ओके. In what ways did the socio-religious reform movements challenge the rigid caste system? Okay, so we get to know that when UPSC asks questions with respect to social reforms, at times they focus on what you call as modernity. Second, they focus on organizations. Third, they focus on issues. This could have been women education, female education. This could have been priestcraft. This can be anything, right? Caste system. So fine. And how successful were they in fostering social equality? That means success. Any topic happens, why that topic took place, how that topic took place, consequence में whether success or failure. So they are talking about, so success, failure, that is judgment. The way we judged Indian War of Independence, that was it Indian War of Independence or not, right? ऐसा तो judgment. मतलब UPSC focuses on that the students should think about issues in terms of their results and why that result, right? Okay, we are understanding the mind of the UPSC. Particularly, how successful are they in fostering social equality? Obviously, if caste system is not there, then social equality will be there. Particularly for marginalized communities like Dalits and women, right? So therefore, they are talking about, okay, tell us about not just Dalits but also women. So though a question, it is about two issues, that is efforts. How far the efforts were successful with respect, how there was the focus, kiya kya for women and Dalits, and successes हुए या failure हुए, how far. ठीक है, so fine. Till now, we have been able to like structure this key. These are the basically focus areas. Okay. Then, how did the efforts to promote women's rights? That means women issues. So we should know what are the women rights exactly. Okay, including campaigns against sati and child marriage. So बोला कि दो पे फोकस करो, बहुत सारे इश्यूज हो सकते हैं ऑफ द वुमेन, फोकस ऑन टू. कंट्रीब्यूट टू ब्रॉडर जेंडर रिफॉर्म्स इन 19th सेंचुरी, राइट? सो मतलब रिजल्ट क्या हुआ, ठीक है, मतलब व्हाट वाज द रिजल्ट, फाइन. व्हाट वर द लिमिटेशंस, दैट इज फेलियर्स एंड सक्सेसेस ऑफ दीज मूवमेंट्स. So again, different words, same focus. Discuss the role of education reforms introduced by movements such as Aligarh movement and the Ramakrishna mission in shaping up modern Indian thought. So okay, one issue that we are getting is focus on education. and fine, organizations. One aspect is coming that they are naming some organizations. Then, how did these reforms balance the introduction of Western ideas with the preservation of Indian cultural heritage? Same question, different language. Link between modernity and tradition. What role did rationalism and free thought, that is nothing but modernity, something which is new in time and better, that is logic. What role did rationalism and free thought, as seen in Young Bengal movement, again organization, play in challenging the orthodox religious beliefs, so issues, and how did this intellectual movement influence social and political reforms in colonial India? So primarily social, political, so what was the impact of rationalism and free thought? So rationalism and free thought, actually it comes from where? It comes from Western education, matlab the modern rationalism. So therefore one of the social reform issue that they are talking about, what you call as, is education. Education to already aa chuka hai. Education, Western education, and impact on result on society, and now they have talked about result on polity also. They have asked about this also. Then, how did the socio-religious reform movements of the 19th century India reflect responses to British colonialism? This part is coming from reasons. That is why social reforms took place. And they are hinting us that one of the reasons they mentioned reflect responses to British colonialism, मतलब एक anti-British sentiment, which is actually cultural nationalism. Anti-British sentiment is because we are in the domain of society, so we are in the domain of culture. Anti-British sentiment, मतलब heads, tails, heads British colonialism, tails Indian nationalism, cultural nationalism. And in what ways did these movements, both reformist and revivalists, contribute to formation of national identity? और चलो मेथड्स में जगह एक एस्पेक्ट आ जाता है, 7th पॉइंट, if we understand these things, then all of these answers somewhere we will be in a position to answer or think about, right? There is nothing more which has been asked. These are the basic building blocks of all of these questions, right? So now let us engage in a discussion. We began our discussion with the focus on modernity. What is modern? Modern is something which is new in time and which is relatively better, right? And exactly how this modernism played out was because of Western education. So let us rearrange. So instead of doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 like this, let us reorganize ourselves. So when we reorganize ourselves, so what we'll do is this will become our why social reforms. So matlab, this is like one aspect. This is also one. This is related to this modernity only, right? So reasons why social reforms took place. Second aspect comes is that what were the methods followed by these social reforms, right? Or what were the methods followed by social reforms? Third aspect that comes is that second aspect में ही आ जाएगा, that is types of social reformers, methods में ही है. On the basis of method you can classify them. Then what issues did they pick up, right? बल्कि इसको हम what you can do is we can do it to and methods we can. So what are the issues? Why social reform? That is one aspect. Then very chronologically, if you want to be social reformer, so why do I want to become social reformer? Chalo, मैंने decide कर लिया that I am social reformer. Then I'll see, okay, what are the issues which are there. So therefore, the second point becomes like issues. Third point is like, okay, now I have to choose certain methods, right? In those methods, I can set up some organizations also if I want to make organized efforts, right? And then types of social reformers, fine, I'll put it point number 4, and whatever my results are, I'll put it in point number 5, right? So therefore that's like a logical way of rearranging these things. Okay, na? So first aspect that we talk about is reasons, right? When we talk about reasons for socio-religious reforms, these are the 3 reasons why social reforms took place. And these are also the 3 reasons why social reforms took place exactly in 1800s and not before. Right? Reasons for social reforms, and also this answer to this question, that why in 1800s. Right? Why in 1800s? And British criticism, it came from what you call as ideology. So fine, criticism से related है ideology, right? So the stream of thoughts is like this, okay? This structure, I cannot write down everything, right? So therefore I'm going for a verbal discussion, but focus on the understanding aspect of it. British ideology until 1813 was Orientalism. Orientalism means rule India the India way, right? Why rule India the India way? When you have to fulfill white man's burden. White man's burden was a belief among the West that they are a superior civilization and it is their responsibility to civilize the rest of the world. Right? Now in 1700s or up till 1700s, the way they used to judge any civilization was on the basis of language and literature. Because what separates animals from humans is primarily language. Right? So scientifically also. Right? So therefore, if any civilization has very good literature, that means they are an advanced civilization. So when they looked at Sanskrit literature, other literature, they kind of like came to this conclusion that Indian civilization is awesome. In fact, Indian literature is better than ancient Greek and ancient Roman literature also. So India is great. So therefore, to fulfill white man burden, you do not have to convert India into Britain. You don't have to westernize India. So rule India the India way. But in it, that's why no social reforms took place. And Britishers were also not criticizing us, right? They have not reached the level of dogs and Indians, not allowed, right? That will be after 1857 because हमने बहुत मारा ना इनको. So after that 1857 they said कि Indians are equal to dogs, right? तो ऐसा खैर. After 1813, however, their ideology changed, and they started saying that no, ancient India is not great. So they started telling us that neither our ancestors were great nor we are great. ठीक है, तुम्हारे पूर्वज भी, तुम भी. As a result, anger will be there among the Indians that how dare you said this about our ancestors. That anger will generate cultural nationalism, and therefore, what will be the focus? Focus will now be, we will prove that our past was also great. and we will prove that our present can also be great via reforms. So we accepted that yes, right now there is problem, but we'll prove that our past is also great and we are also great. Because of this particular focus, right, it resulted in what you call as, if you have to prove that the past is great, so therefore if this is A and if this is B, so therefore for A, you have to what you call as search for modernity. Laptop, double click PDF. Name of the PDF, Vedas, scriptures. Control F, modernity. Control F, rationality. Control F, logic. Enter. 1056 results found. And then tell the British. Our ancestors were great. Right? So don't tell us that only you have logic, only you have humanism, only you have rationality. Books, they do this by writing a sentence that reformers did not ask people to reform to be like West. Rather, they searched for Control F, modernity in the scriptures. Right? उससे क्या होगा? You will be proving that our past was great. You don't have monopoly over logic and rationality. Right? So therefore, for A, you try to search modern or modernity where? In scriptures. And for B, what do? Reforms. That's why there was focus on scriptures. And a lot of scripture-based debate took place. That is, whether widow remarriage is right or wrong as per scriptures, whether sati is right or wrong as per scriptures, whether female education should take place or not take place as per scripture, whether idolatry, it is supported by scriptures or it is not supported by scriptures, right? Aisa. So imagine your UPSC aspirant of that time. Although UPSC was not open to you until 1853, but still imagine, right? So like nowadays you read editorials every day and you have become much more aware about many things which you earlier were not thinking about, right? So ऐसा, this kind of society. For example, ये तो ज़्यादा ही गर्मा गया उस दिन, है ना? इसके parents, are relatively very very strict, right? तो उस दिन पता है क्या बोला अपने parents को? कह रहे there is no federalism, there is no devolution of power in this family. उस दिन के बाद इसके पेरेंट्स ने कुछ नहीं कहा, कह रहे लड़का पढ़ रहा है. ठीक, ऐसा थॉट्स चेंज होता है, लैंग्वेज चेंज हो जाती है आफ्टर प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर यूपीएससी. डेवल्यूशन ऑफ पावर, है ना? This family should be of the family members, for the family members, by the family members, है ना? ऐसा मतलब ऐसा, है ना? What is the preamble of our family? Right? ऐसा, there are no fundamental rights here. I don't have freedom of speech and expression anymore, right? So parents are like, क्या बोल रहे हैं? Why am I not allowed to speak? I don't have freedom of speech and expression. My freedom of movement is curtailed. You're telling me that I cannot go out for a night out. Things like this. So therefore language change as you start preparing for UPSC. So imagine that you were a UPSC aspirant in that time period. What you will read? Scriptures के बारे में people are writing editorials. Right? So therefore my friends, इसका result क्या होगा? The result of this is that when this thing is there, and then you combine use of press, because the social reformers, their method was press. So a lot of articles will be written in favor of reforms, that please reform because our scriptures, they say so. So by doing widow remarriage, you're not going against your religion. As per religion, you can do child marriage even after puberty, right? So therefore they will try to justify these things. Now my friends, this will lead to what you call as national identity. In this word, national identity, two words are there. One word is nation, which I have told you is nothing but people. Nation is summation of people who feel one, equal, and supreme. The second word is identity. Identity is two parts. For example, if I ask you, please tell me about yourself or tell me about your identity, your name is not your identity. To know your identity, I would have to talk about you, with you for half an hour, for 20 minutes, for 1 hour. In that 1 hour, you need to tell me about yourself. That is your identity. So imagine what you will be telling me. You will be telling me about your name, your parents, your family, the city that you come from, the village that you come from. Gradually, when I'll inquire more, you tell me about the festivals you celebrate. You'll tell me about problems of your family. You will tell me about, the kind of art, architecture which is there in your village. Maybe you will tell me that your village has some GI tag, right? That is, famous for something like from Kolhapur, so Kolhapuri chappal, right? So therefore, and you are from Kolhapur and you are frustrated कि जहाँ भी जाता हूँ लोग मेरे से चप्पलों के बारे में पूछते हैं. खैर, anyways, ठीक है, तो ऐसा कोल्हापुरी चप्पल or something else है ना, because कानपुर, so Kanpur is famous for, it is also famous for some industry ना, leather है ना, leather है ना, so people they want to know about leather only, and there are so many other things in Kanpur also है ना, ऐसा this kind of scenarios, right? So you will tell me about, maybe some religious places which are in your district, right? Your way of life, the way people are, that's your identity, right? Who your ancestors were, right? Or which was the ruler in 1800s in your area, है ना, in before the British time, etc. ये तो बोला कि सर आपको पता है हमारे यहीं तो थे नाना साहेब. कौन सी जगह से हो? From which state you are? Tamil Nadu, right? So from Tamil Nadu, so maybe he start telling me about Sirajagopalachari, है ना. He start telling me about, sir, people books they do not write that much, but sir, this is the history of Justice Party, है ना, something like this, है ना, right? So ऐसा, or or Carnatic, है ना. So he said कि sir, the NCERT books they mention very less, modern history book they mention very less about Carnatic, but this thing happened in Carnatic, that thing happened in Carnatic, sir, this Carnatic war, sir, this was a role played by the Carnatic wars in the history of India, something like this, right? Right. He may talk about what you call as Sangam literature, है ना, ऐसा कि sir, I come from that land which has this so therefore two things will come out. When so much amount of discussion will take place by intellectual, two things will come out. They form our identity actually. A cognitive component. Cognitive means information. And second, emotion. Emotion means when he was talking about all of that from Tamil Nadu, I could notice a sense of pride in his heart. So what is national identity? You know who your ancestors are, right? What were their achievements, right? What were their flaws also? But at the end of it, you're also proud of them. Now, what will happen? National identity. And trust me, even today, there is scarcity of national identity, right? Many of the Indians, right? In fact, majority of the Indians, I think, they don't know about their past, right? The past, it begins mostly with British era. At max, it will go to the Mughal era, right? But overall, past of thousands of years, right? तो और जो सब्जेक्ट पास्ट बताते हैं वो कतई बोर है. आर्ट एंड कल्चर, एंशिएंट, इस तरीके से किताबें लिखी गई हैं. The books have been written in such a manner that you do not feel any kind of like, today I'm going to study ancient. Rarely you will find, because too much amount of jargons, facts, etc., that is there, right? So therefore, history is should be taught in a manner so that we are kind of like excited to know about our ancestors, right? Including medieval, including ancient, etc., everything, right? So care. To identity. So see, if there'll be focus on the scriptures, then this identity will develop. And obviously there is emotion because of cultural nationalism. This emotion, it is coming from cultural nationalism, the anger, and this is coming from study of scriptures. And most of the socio-religious reforms issues, they were talked on the basis of scriptures. As a result, over a period of time, we got to know about ourselves more. That if we do sati, why we do sati, right? Why it was done in the ancient past, right? If we do not do widow remarriage, so why do we do not do? Is it right? It is wrong, right? So we are getting to know about our past, right? So that's how they shaped what you call as cultural identity, right? Second aspect was Western education. Western education is famous for one thing, right? And that is what you call as doctrine of logic. And second is human happiness, individual's happiness. कहते हैं ना ऐसा, Western societies are individualistic society. Why do we say that? Because they focus on happiness of each individual. दुनिया जाए भाड़ में, ठीक है, each individual should be right, human happiness, जिसको ये लोग बोलते थे humanism, human happiness, right? भूटान का happiness index, declaration of independence 1766, 3 inalienable rights, everyone is born with right to life, liberty and pursuit of happiness. So this happiness word, it's not like a casual word which I've written here, right? Each individual's happiness, right? So ऐसा, so therefore human happiness. तो ये दो चीजों पे focus है, that is each of your humanities, it is ism, ठीक है. What is the keyword in humanities? Human. And if you notice, each of your humanities basically is trying to achieve human happiness in different domain. When you study economics, you're trying to solve economic problems. When you're and trying to achieve economic happiness. When you focus on sociology, you try to see that how because of society one should not be unhappy. There should not be any miseries. When you study psychology, so therefore you're trying to focus on कि यहाँ पे क्या problem है. Right? Everything was there, but the person committed suicide. मतलब यहाँ झोल था, right? Or a person who does not have a family, right? So therefore, little every day, मैं अकेला हूँ मतलब क्या है, मतलब फैमिली नहीं है, सोसाइटी aspect is not there, right? So therefore that's the issue, right? Similarly, any humanity you pick up, anthropology हो गया या कोई भी हो गया, so ultimately all of those are focused on humans' happiness. In fact, every science is also an endeavor to solve what you call as problems of the humans, right? So therefore happiness of the human is like, so there is humanity in sciences, and because always focus on logic, so every humanities is a wannabe science. Anyone who has, those of you who have been from humanities background, every humanity is a wannabe science. Political science. Psychology was my optional. So many experiments to prove that how psychology is a science. So if we search for human in science and we try to search science in humanities. Right? So that's the sort of, these are the two things which come out of what you call as Western education. Okay, so there is focus on logic and human. Now, so therefore this is, what is this? Pen nahi, ye hai logic. So as soon as I, what you call as studied Western education, so this logic lens aa gaya mere paas. जेब है नहीं पर ठीक है, लॉजिक लेंस केम विद मी. ठीक है, अब मैं आफ्टर टुडेज क्लास है ना, as soon as I go out of the class, this logic lens is there. So anything which happens, उधर ठीक है सती हो रहा है, ठीक है, lens of logic, right? I am trying to search for why this is right, why this is wrong, how this is logical, है ना ऐसा, right? Similarly, if what you call as idolatry is there, so I try to search for logic. If priestcraft is there, right? So for example, if not all priests are negative, by the way, Ramakrishna Paramhans was himself a priest. So when you talk about priestcraft, you're not lamenting all the priests, right? You're lamenting only those priests who are misusing their social power. Not all priests are negative, right? So, but by chance you witnessed a negative priest who, let's say, is misusing his social power and who is saying some poor person that unless you give me this much amount of money for this particular ritual, that particular ritual, तुम्हारे माता पिता कहता आत्मा को शांति नहीं मिलेगी. Right? So therefore now poverty versus ethical dilemma. Poverty versus माता पिता की शांति. मतलब समझते मतलब misuse है ना, misuse of social power, right? So therefore logic, right? So ऐसा similarly if casteism is there, right? So just on the basis of births, some negative is there, right? So logic, you try to search, and therefore a lot of ऐसा alarm results will come in because of this logic, right? As a result, second reason was logic. And because of the Western education, most of the social reformers, they were Western educated. Some exceptions were there, like Ramakrishna Paramhans, who was not at all Western educated, guru of Swami Vivekananda, but otherwise most of the social reformers, they were Western educated, right? So therefore, that is what is there. Then idea of modern nation, that is also there. So nation is summation of people who feel one, and second, equality, right? So here the focus, it is on equality and liberty, right? So for example, if gender oppression is there, so therefore women, liberty, right? If casteism is there, that means lack of equality. If men women disparity is there, that means lack of equality, right? So therefore equality, and second aspect, liberty. These two things, right, they are going to what you call as inspire, and all of it comes from Western education. Western education was introduced when? Only in 1835. Yeah, है ना? नहीं नहीं, नेशनल वेस्टर्न एजुकेशन में जो आपका नेशनलिज्म है, नेशनलिज्म के भी 3 फॉर्म्स होते हैं. पॉलिटिकल नेशनलिज्म विच विल वांट पावर ओवर स्टेट विच इज रूलिंग इंडिया. Economic nationalism, which would want what you call as economic prosperity and no drain theory, no loot of wealth from India. And then third is cultural nationalism, whereby our culture is preserved and we are proud to be the way we are in our socio-cultural life, right? So therefore nation is supreme. So therefore nation is supreme in the domain of politics, nation is supreme in the domain of economics, and nation is supreme in the domain of socio-cultural, right? So this thought, it will come from what you call as A, हम सब भारतीय हैं, right? We are not X caste first, Y caste first, and second, we are one, and then we are great also, supreme. So great, economically great, politically great, and culturally also great. तो जुड़ा हुआ है मतलब वेस्टर्न एजुकेशन से. हाँ, हेल्प हुआ क्योंकि ये चीज़ें भी आएंगी, ये चीज़ें भी इंपॉर्टेंट है. आप देखिए, नेशन इज समेशन ऑफ पीपल हु फील वन इक्वल, ठीक है? इफ कास्टिज्म इज देयर, राइट, सो देयरफॉर इक्वालिटी वननेस में प्रॉब्लम आएगा फिर, है ना? फिर आप नेशन नहीं है उस तरीके से, है ना? राजा राममोहन राय सेड दिस ओनली दैट इंडिया इज नॉट अ मॉडर्न नेशन बिकॉज इट लैक्स यूनिटी बिकॉज ऑफ कास्टिज्म. Okay, so then desire of state is very powerful. It has economic power, it has law making power, it has police power. So actually the Britishers, now they said that since ancient India is not great, so how to fulfill white man's burden? By doing social reforms. So state was interested in doing social reforms, right? So that's why state also played and if state wants something, like after 1857 they did not go for social reforms. So pre 1857, because the state wants it, so therefore these are the forces which resulted in social reforms, right? So yes, and fourth aspect is that when you will study Renaissance, when you study Western education, you will also study nation matlab nationalism. You will also study that how after Renaissance in the West, that is how after socio-religious reforms in the West in 14th century, how gradually the West became very awesome in economics, right? How the West gradually adopted democracy. So you are also trying to do a copy paste kind of thing, that if that was European Renaissance of 14th century, let us have Indian Renaissance, so that we also start our journey towards good economy, good politics, modern economy, modern politics, modern society, right? So therefore that nationalism is also coming. Western education में ही आप पढ़ेंगे Renaissance. So you'd want to be like that, and that is why Renaissance is an Italian word, but they call it Bengal Renaissance, Indian Renaissance. That's the name which is given to socio-religious reforms. So that knowledge of Renaissance, inspiration from Renaissance, this is nothing but Renaissance, logic and human happiness. That will also come from Western education. इसकी स्पेलिंग देख लेना यार, Renaissance जो भी है, ये सिंगल एन होता है शायद, जो भी बेकार लैंग्वेज है, ठीक है? सो दिस काइंड ऑफ सिनेरियो, ठीक है? तो दीज आर द रीजंस व्हिच आर देयर. Second aspect that comes into operation is that, okay, modernity and reasons we have done. Then second aspect is issues. Issues के लिए there is a mnemonic. Imagine that elections are taking place in Calcutta, and Italian Prime Minister comes in Calcutta for pre-poll campaign. So the mnemonic is this, और यहाँ पे ऐड कर लेते हैं. एंड पढ़ी लिखी हुई है, लेट्स से. Educated Italian Prime Minister in Calcutta for 3 polls. Idolatry is not idol worship. Wherever you add the word atery, it is there, it becomes negative. So therefore, such idol worship where there is no spirituality, right? And where are idols? Idols are in temples, right? Temples are under control of who? Priests. So basically, such idol worship where negative priests, right? They can be positive priests also. Negative priests are misusing their social power over temples to, for their personal gains or something, right? That's idolatry. P, priestcraft. Priestcraft means over focus on rituals without any spirituality. M, marriage. And marriage, 2 issues are there. Widow marriage and child marriage. Widow remarriage and child marriage should not happen, right? So widow remarriage, yes, no. In I, it stands for infanticide, especially female infanticide. C, it stands for casteism, right? P, it stands for polygamy, that is multiple wives. And this stands for polytheism, that is, again, worshipping multiple gods, in fact, can be one of the most secular thing. That is, you belong to a particular religion and you are worshipping different forms of God. इससे ज़्यादा secular और क्या चीज़ हो सकती है? That you belong to one particular religion and you do not have problem with each other. That someone is saying that I am worshipper of Krishna, someone is saying I am worshipper of Ram, etc. So understand, worshipping multiple gods, that's no negative. In fact, वो एक positive here that society is very secular, tolerant of each other. But if you start fighting that whether your God is true God or his God or her God is true God, then there is a problem. Example, if you have seen the movie Ponniyin Selvan, their hints are given that are you a Vaishnavite or are you a Shaivite, right? So basically, if divisions are coming in the society, right, that then it is negative. So such polytheism whereby fighting is there, that and this concept is not clear that ultimately God is one only. We are just worshipping different form because of different traits, right? So actually, from the perspective of Hinduism, when you are worshipping, let's say, goddess Saraswati, so you're worshipping like one of the trait relatively more, that is like knowledge, right? So that's how it is actually, right? So from the perspective of like Hinduism, it's not about clarity is not there, that ultimately there is one, because Brahmatma, right, that is ultimately all are one. That concept is also so. But by chance, if such a situation arises that people start fighting against each other, right, then that is negative. right? So as this kind of scenario. So for example, you can apply not the concept of polytheism, right? That is not there, but with respect to, for example, other religions. Let's say people are divided in other religions also, and they are fighting against each other, right? Not polytheism, but like, for example, Shia versus Sunni conflict, right? So on basis of not polytheism, but on some other aspect, some divisions and then fighting, right? Or for example, what you call as in the case of Sikhism, right? On the issue of whether there can be any living guru or not, that is like one of the very cores, right? So Nirankaris versus rest of the majority of the Sikh community. So therefore, on any basis, right, if the people who are belonging to a particular religion, if they are fighting against each other, and so therefore angle of spirituality kind of like is taking a back seat, ठीक है, तो then it becomes kind of like negative. That is the whole thought process, ठीक है ना, चाहे वो मल्टीपल गॉड्स के आधार पे हो, चाहे वो मल्टीपल किसी भी और चीज के ऊपर हो, ठीक है ना. So that's the thought process. So these are the different issues which are there, right? Then so these are the issues with respect to women. So marriage is an issue, and also education is an issue. Female infanticide is an issue. With respect to Dalits, casteism is the issue, right? So fine. So that is second aspect. Third aspect is methods. So with respect to methods, so one basis of which one method was, some social reformers were there like Young Bengal who used only logic. That is, if I'm going to talk about, let's say, casteism, then I'm not going to say that as per that scripture, see, casteism is not allowed, not right. नहीं, मैं ऐसी कोई बात नहीं करूँगा. I'll not be using religion or scriptures at all. I'll be purely talking on the basis of logic. That you tell me that you have the same color of the blood, same everything, right? So, मतलब on what basis you are discriminating? What is the logic of it, right? So, logic ke basis pe. Or I'll talk that why there should not be education for women. Why? Why she should only have a housewife like rule? Why? Right? So therefore you can logic ke basis pe. Why there should be child marriage? Right? Is she ready? Psychologically ready? Is she physically ready? Right? To become part of the family? Right? So what is it? कौन सा part टूट पड़ेगा that if she does not marry before puberty? Right? That's so I'm not going to take help of Shastras, scriptures, Vedas. By the way, what is the difference between scriptures and Vedas? Vedas plus other texts, that's equal to scriptures. So scriptures is equal to Vedas plus something more. Okay, so yes sir. Then there will be some people like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, like Swami Dayanand Saraswati, right, who use logic also and religion also. But there also, मतलब ये लोग क्या करेंगे? Raja Ram Mohan Roy क्या करेंगे? First, or in general, what these people they will do? First, they will find something which is logical. Then control F logic, result found. Then they'll go to the common man. That a Gyani, this is not in line with your religion, or the reform is in line with your religion. तुम्हें नहीं पता? In that particular shastra, in that particular scripture, in this particular paragraph, this is there. Then you're like, मैं पाप कर रहा था, है ना? What if I'm able to prove to you? For example, Sati. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was able to prove that Sati is murder as per every Shastra. Because in the ancient times when Sati was done, the reasons for Sati were different. But by the time period of 1800s, in many of the cases, Sati was taking place because of greed of property of relatives. Whereas in the ancient times, spirituality used to be the reason for Sati. Spirituality reason for Sati? हाँ, जैसे you don't feel surprised when you read about Romeo and Juliet. You don't feel surprised when you read about Heer Ranjha. right? So when they're only love, right? So therefore one person feels that there is no point in living anymore because the person who I am with, he is not anymore, right? There is this syndrome. A couple, right, many of the times it happens that if the couple is like really attached with each other, it happens in birds also, and if one of the pair dies, the other also dies. Old age people, couple, right, if grandmother gone, grandfather also gone after some time, right? They become so sad emotionally, right? So the whole point what I'm trying to say is that in the ancient times when sati used to take place, it was not a result of ego, it was not a result of any dignity, it was not a result of any societal pressure. But in 1800s, that spirituality component, that love component was not the reason, other aspects were also reasons, right, in many of the cases. So therefore तब तो वो मर्डर है. शास्त्र ये थोड़ी कहते हैं कि because of property greed सती कर दो by force. So therefore in 1800s it became either suicide or murder. If for dignity that world should remember that I became sati, that's suicide. That is suicide, right? So therefore it was either homicide or suicide, right? ऐसा एंशियंट नहीं, हाँ तो कोई फोर्स भी नहीं कर रहा था. In the ancient times, in the ancient times as such, no one was forcing anyone to be sati. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि हर केस में when the husband is dying, so therefore wife has to do sati. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, ठीक है ना, voluntary है, right? And that is also like in among Rajputs, when Johar used to take place, it was for what you call as protection of dignity. Protection of dignity. That is so that rapes do not take place by the victorious party and all, right? So yes. Property ऐसा है कि भाई if the wife is there who does not have any children also, let's say, and she is a widow now, so obviously the joint family would have to allocate some house, some property to her. So if she is not there, then the house of that son. अच्छा सती भी एवरी केस में नहीं होता था. If there are children, right? So therefore then there is no requirement to be sati, because a responsibility is there to be. But their property greed was there, right? So anyways, right? Time is, we are running out of time. So use logic plus reason both. इससे क्या होगा? Chance of success will be better. So therefore those were more successful which followed this method, and they were less successful. Why? Because Indian society was deeply religious. So therefore only on the basis of logic, if you are going to ask for reform, the people will say ki bhaiya I don't want to go to hell. But if you are able to prove to me that this is in line with the religion, then fine, no problem. Rather you are helping me go to heaven, right? So very good point. The same scriptures will be used by the orthodox sections to prove that sati is right as per shastras. तभी तो national identity develop होगी. Real resolution of identity crisis. Those who are in favor, they also use scriptures. Those who are against, they also use scriptures. Debate takes place. Issue become famous. The conclusion, whichever party wins, I know who our ancestors were. Not fake resolution of identity, true resolution of identity. That's why it is a hallmark of the socio-religious reforms that there was high use of scriptures by every party. William Bentinck said, Roy, I will bring, Roy, I will bring sati abolition only when you are able to prove that it is not right as per Hindu Dharma. Right? So therefore, in this particular case, he is also, the umpire is also watching a tennis game. है ना, उधर से वो राधा कांता देव और धर्मा समा, राइट, इधर से रॉय भागते हुए, ठीक है ऐसा है ना. गेम इज गोइंग टू टेक प्लेस ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ स्क्रिप्चर्स एंड अंपायर इज ऑल्सो वॉचिंग, right? And we the people of India, we the nation are also watching, and whoever wins, so therefore ultimately Roy won, so William Bentinck, Roy, so we also are much more aware now. Debate होगा तभी तो real awareness आएगी, नहीं तो एक एडिटोरियल में काम हो जाएगा रे बाबा. हर रोज छपना चाहिए ना एडिटोरियल. डिबेट तो गुड है फॉर रेजोल्यूशन ऑफ नेशनल आइडेंटिटी, है ना. तो ऐसा नाउ इसमें भी दो पीपल थे, ठीक है. वन रॉय, what if you do control F? Zero result. Then what will you choose? Will you choose something which you feel is logical, or you will choose religion? Swami Dayananda Saraswati, said, I will choose Vedas. Roy said, no, I'll choose logic. So therefore, on that particular sense, what you call as Swami Dayananda Saraswati is more what you call as cultural nationalist compared to Roy. Right? So therefore, these are the method-wise, these are the people who are focusing, right? And multiple examples are there. For example, they will read that some person used what you call as medical opinion to prove that see how child marriage is not right. So that is the kind of person who is using logic. Book says about Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar that he said, I have no time to think about God. Meaning क्या है? I will, please don't argue with me on the basis of scripture. Logical बात करो बस. सिर्फ logic की बात करो. ठीक है? I have no time to think about what does the scripture say. That means he is basically saying I will use only logic in my solutions. Right? Then atheism. It is because of logic that young Bengal said, give me proof of God. I will not accept anything which cannot be proven. Right? So therefore atheism. Right? Similarly, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar promoted atheism. Why? Because they over focus on logic. They want proof of everything. God is a felt feeling. How to bring physical proof of that phenomenon? Right? So therefore, there will be some social reformers who will be atheists like Young Bengal, right? Or Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, right? Or some people will say religion is created by man, so therefore religion should be changed also. If control F, no result, then change the religion. These kind of people. Right? So therefore, method-wise, this is the aspect. Second, method-wise, second method, gradualist versus radical. Gradualist, such kind of social reformers who say two things. A, easy first. Second, hole hole. Hole hole, you understand? Those from non-Hindi speaking backgrounds, hole hole means hole hole. Right? Matlab like slowly, slowly. Inch by inch, slowly, slowly. So two things are there. So hole hole. So they are like social reforms. I have allocated weekends for social reforms. In rest of the 5 days, I handle my lawyergiri. I do, I'm a lawyer, let's say, right? Or I'm father of Indian economics, MG Ranade. So social reforms, hole hole, right? Economics bhi to dekhna hai. ड्रेन थ्योरी भी तो देखना है ना, ऐसा दिस काइंड ऑफ सिनेरियो, राइट? सो होले होले दैट इज फुल्ली कमिटेड है नहीं है, ठीक है ना? ऑन दिस साइड यू हैव स्वामी दयानंद सरस्वती 24/7 सोशल रिफॉर्म्स, स्वामी विवेकानंद 24/7 सोशल रिफॉर्म कमिटेड, राइट? ऐसा बिल्कुल मिशन मोड, राइट? ऐसा आई वांट रिफॉर्म, केशव चंद्र सेन, आई वांट टू सी रिफॉर्म इन माय लाइफ टाइम, रेडिकल रिफॉर्मर्स, राइट? सो होले होले वर्सेस फुल्ली कमिटेड, आई वांट टू सी सोशल रिफॉर्म्स इन माय लाइफ टाइम, पता चले मैं मर गया और पता नहीं बाद में होंगे सोशल रिफॉर्म्स. Easy first. For example, Raja Rammohn Roy, caste and women issues, they were considered sensitive. So therefore, these people said, let us catch low-hanging fruits first. Right? Caste and women, इसके बारे में बात मत करो. Otherwise, people, they will stop listening to you. है ना? If you talk about intercaste marriage, right? At that point of time, in the early 1800s, people say, intercaste marriage? Right? ठीक है, don't talk about child marriage. ठीक है, कोई आ गया, don't marry your daughter, right? पता चले पिट पिटा के बाहर जाएगा, है? कोई आ गया, you should, there is a widow in your home, you should do widow remarriage. Like, अच्छा, है ना? So मतलब, Hindus will get alienated because they are sensitive matters. Right? These are related to dignity. These are related to sensitive matters. Right? This kind of scenario. So therefore, but Keshav Chandra Sen is talking about intercaste marriage. Huh? Swami Dayananda Saraswati, end of caste, no casteism. Right? Swami Dayananda Saraswati, radical reformer throughout. Swami Dayananda Saraswati was so radical, not just idolatry. He did not want idol worship also. He was against genuine idol worship also. He was against genuine rituals also. He supported only one thing, Vedas. And whatever is mentioned in the Vedas, only that is to be followed, and that is simply yajna. That's it. Nothing else. Right? Radical. ठीक है ना? तो ऐसा. Swami Vivekananda, radical but less radical than Swami Dayananda Saraswati. Right? Swami Vivekananda, okay with some use of idol worship. Why? Because it simply helps people concentrate. Right? Okay with some rituals. Right? So that is why books, they also say that he was much more accepted by the people as compared to Swami Dayananda Saraswati. Right? So then mass movement versus no mass movement. There were some social reformers who went to masses, and there were some social reformers who went to Dalhousie. There were some social reformers who went to masses. Then there were some social reformers who went to Benting. So we are common people, right? And we are having chai pe charcha. And वो कौन निकला? विद्यासागर, डलहौजी, Roy, Benting. So therefore, some social reformers who want shortcut, they are shortcutters. They are like, it is very hard work to go to the people and convince them. Let us convince Benting. Let us convince Dalhousie. Benting will bring a law, abolition of sati 1829. बस मेरा काम हो गया. अब पुलिस का टेंशन है. अपना लाइफ चिल हो गया. पुलिस टेंशन ना हो. पुलिस देखेगी. पुलिस खड़ी हुई गार्ड. रॉय चाय. Chill mano. Shortcut. Convincing people is tough. So one who took shortcut and one who did not take shortcut. Keshav Chandra Sen. Then Keshav Chandra Sen went to British also, but went to people also. Example, Brahmo Marriages Act 1872, Keshav Chandra Sen. And people also. Similarly, Swami Dayananda Saraswati, Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda said, service of Jiva is worship of Shiva. So he said that social service, NGO-like activity is path to spirituality. Right? Aisa. Roy did not even try to go to masses. He used to speak in complex Sanskritized Bengali prose, which common man cannot understand. Language also is not using. Actually, you know what their hope is? Their hope is, A, they want to use power of state. That state have legislative power, economic power, etc. And second, they wanted to use what you call as social mobility. Social mobility means reform, upper caste and lower caste will copy. That's why, and masses are not upper caste. Upper caste are minority. So they are shortcutters. Books, exam mein mat likh dena aise, but I'm telling you, they were shortcutters. Right? Using power of the state. Tough, hard work is convincing the common man, going to village after village after village. Right? So method wise, these differences were there. बस ज़्यादा time और नहीं लूँगा, I know. But topic ही थोड़े से ज़्यादा वैसे हो गए. खैर. Next aspect, तो methods हो गए हमारे. Methods में organizations भी बनाई इन्होंने. So therefore different organizations find they are working according to the beliefs, right? So major organizations are Brahmo Samaj 1828 in Bengal. Then in 1866 on the basis of gradualism and radicalism, split took place in Brahmo Samaj. Keshav Chandra Sen set up Brahmo Samaj of India, whereas Adi Brahmo Samaj was the organization of Debendranath Tagore. That was the major organization. Then in Maharashtra, it was Pratna Samaj of 1867. That was the major organization. And after 1857, it was Arya Samaj, 1875, by Swami Dayananda Saraswati, who propagated Vedas, set up Gurukuls also. 1897, Ramakrishna Mission by Swami Vivekananda, right? Who went to Parliament of Religions also in Chicago in 1893. And therefore he brought very good name to Hinduism. So Swami Dayananda Saraswati and Swami Vivekananda are two people who are called ambassadors of Hinduism. Right? ऐसा मतलब made it famous worldwide. Organization wise वो है. Social work हम देखते हैं कि काफ़ी strong focus. आर्य समाज later on आर्य समाजी set up DAV, Dayanand Anglo-Vedic Trust. Anglo means what? He is not against Western sciences. Physics, chemistry, maths, right? Anglo. Vedic, personal life, culture, Vedic, right? And they are not against each other. In fact, he used to say real science is in Vedas. So Swami Vivekananda, these people, they are not anti-science people, right? So whenever Swami Dayanand Saraswati or Swami Vivekananda comes to mind, think of a ISRO scientist who is wearing all the religious symbols. टीका वीका लगाए हुए हैं, मतलब पूरा ऐसा, मतलब प्राउड ऐसा दिसका, बट इसरो साइंटिस्ट. राजा राममोहन रॉय, इसरो साइंटिस्ट, wearing suit boot, but before leaving the house, praying. But in the public life, right, मतलब ऐसा totally this kind. तो मतलब, but both are what you call as cultural nationalists. One is a mild cultural nationalist, another is a stronger cultural nationalist, right, based on, you know, ऐसा. तो खैर, fourth point, types of reformers: reformist and revivalist. Revivalist, reformist to like Raja Rammohn Roy, hole hole, gradualists. Revivalist, they can be divided into positive revivalist and negative revivalist. Positive revivalist mane Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Swami Vivekananda. Revival, think of a person, think of CPR. When do you revive someone? Someone got heart attack and is down, and then you're like reviving. Matlab someone, hurry, rush, mission. Right? Hinduism is like Britishers are criticizing, and in general, a lot of negative things are there in the society. So we need to revive positives of Hinduism. That's revivalism, right? So these people, they'll be very strong cultural nationalists, right? Right? So as Vedas, right? They are the only ones. Well, there's a strong position. Negative revivalist, well, after Swami Dayanand Saraswati died, and after Swami Vivekananda died, their followers converted revivalism, positive revivalism, to negative. It became communalism. Revivalism basically means my God is true God. The negative revivalist said, your God is false. Right? So they added another sentence. So there can be positive revivalist and there can be negative revivalist. Example, in 1893, aggressive cow protection movement, aggressive Shuddhi movement, reconversion to Hinduism, resulted in 1893 cow killing riots. When Swami Dayanand Saraswati was there, conversion pe focus tha, conversion back to Hinduism, but voluntary. Ahimsa was the core of Swami Dayanand Saraswati. Right? Cow protection movement was started by Swami Dayanand Saraswati, but not such cow protection that will lead to any kind of communal tensions. But after him, under Lekhram, Gurudat, right, these people, so it became communal, right? So aisa. Types of reformers. Result on society, on polity. So polity में तो बताया कि वो nation, modern nation के idea से आएगा. On society, result, most of the social reforms, they were failure. Most of the social reforms were failure. What is the reason for that? The reason for that, बस 2 मिनट ले रहा हूँ, 5 मिनट, ठीक है. The reason for that was that focus on mass movement was initially not there pre-1857, and post-1857, when people like Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Keshav Chandra Sen, Swami Vivekananda, they are coming. By that point of time, it is too late. Too late means orthodox sections have taken the leadership. The reason is what? The reason is very, very simple. If there is vacuum of leadership, and Britishers are criticizing us. In fact, after 1857, they are saying dogs and Indians are not allowed. So therefore, chances are very high that an orthodox person will say, how dare they say this? Right? Hum अच्छे थे, hum अच्छे हैं. And there is no need for any change. Great chance that such people will come in. Right? So that became the reason. Next reason was, this is a common principle, agent of change should be from the group which you want to change. So if women-centric reforms are there, then were there any women social reformers? Very few. If you are talking about casteism was not a major issue at all. It only lip service was there, frankly. Right? जिन लोगों ने बात करी बहुत कम थे. Right? And second point is कि no lower caste leaders were there in these major organizations. There were some lower caste social reformers like Jyotiba Phule, Savitribai Phule, Parantu Brahmo Samaj dominated by upper caste, Pratna Samaj dominated by upper caste. So as such, significant numbers may they were not there. Lower caste are the majority of the people, they are the masses. So if the masses, they do not see one of them in the leadership organization, if 50% of the gender does not see one of them in the leadership organization, so they will say, "Arey, this is of the upper caste, by the upper caste, for the upper caste. तो हमें क्या करना है? These reform movements are of the upper caste, by the upper caste, for the upper caste. तो मतलब ठीक है, वो कर रहे हैं, कुछ कर रहे हैं, right? ऐसा. Then next reason for failure was no focus on mass movement. We have seen that there are so many social reformers who do not try to bring mass movement, masses into the thing. Pratha Samaj at max had 72 members, for example. So that is the third reason which is there. Then after 1857, Britishers are also not interested in reforms. So that is one reason. Then Orthodox Hindus were able to prove that widow remarriage is not in line with scriptures. See, Swami Dayananda Saraswati is pro widow remarriage. Why? Because he talks only about Vedas. But scriptures are Vedas plus. So on the basis of that plus, they are able to prove that widow remarriage is not. And the issue was very famous. So progressive sections like the lower castes, who earlier used to do widow remarriage, they also stopped doing widow remarriage. Right? Among the Muslims, Western education was adopted late. As a result, social reforms are also late. Right? So Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, like social reformers, they only come in 1870s, 1880s. तो वो भी एक कारण था. Then Western education, Britishers were very conjuice. They brought Western education, but only in Madras city, Bombay city, Calcutta city. Had Wood's dispatch been a great success, Wood's dispatch of 1854, which wanted to bring mass education, तब फिर ऐसा होता ना that, अब देखो, after independence we had to bring ना सर्व शिक्षा अभियान. So basically the whole thought process is that lower the spread of Western education, lower the spread of modern logic, modern nationalism, lower the spread of social reforms. So therefore that is also a reason. So these are the reasons because of which the social reforms, they were largely not a success. Right? They were top down. Many of the case top down. मतलब जनता में कोई सहमति नहीं है that there should be widow remarriage. But Dalhousie ला रहे हैं Hindu Widow Remarriages Act. Right? And many of the times distrust was there. वो हम बैठे हुए थे ना चाय पे. Right? And we're like, wait. Hey बाबा विद्यासागर सारी विद्या वहीं से ला रहा. On one hand, these Britishers will convert us. On the other hand, in the name of social reforms, they will hurt our core practices. विभीषण जाफर हैं ये जाफर, मीर जाफर एक से इधर ही आ रहा. Now Vidyasagar says there should be widow remarriage, and like, हाँ, तुम तो कहोगे ही. You are with them. So see, when he followed the shortcut of using the British state, that resulted in distrust among the masses and the social reformer. So if there is distrust, so can the follower and the leader be together? Answer is no. So they are not able to become leader of the followers. And big changes happen only when follower and leader and follower, they are together. That is why Swami Dayananda Saraswati never went to the British. Swami Vivekananda never went to the British. They only went to the people. That's why they were relatively much more favorite of the people. Right? Because people were feeling our religion is under threat. Right? And they are talking about atheism. हाँ, तुम तो कहोगे ही atheism कि हमारा भगवान तो है ही नहीं. तुम मिले हुए हो. है ना? So ऐसा, this kind of scenario. So today you are saying that our God is not God. Atheism. Tomorrow you will say their God is the true God. Step 1 complete, step 2 completed later. So मतलब people would have this kind of sentiment. Right? And common man के sentiments जो होते हैं वो ऐसे ही होते हैं. ठीक है ना? So therefore that is the overall thought process why they were failure. ठीक है? So therefore that's how the whole thing is. But definitely cultural nationalism, it got generated, and this cultural nationalism was used by INM leaders. Ganpati Festival 1893, Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, Anand Math 1882. Concept of Mother India. right? So therefore, Mahatma Gandhi, Ram Rajya. So religion was used, this cultural energy was used to basically start anti-British kind of like struggle, right? So ये था, ठीक है? तो thank you, God bless you, take care. On the basis of this, basically we have tried to cover a lot of ground, ठीक है? And on the basis of that, these questions etc. they can be answered, ठीक है ना? So thank you, God bless you, take care.